What is up, guys? It is the OTO podcast. We're back just as we said we were for episode 18. We just saw you guys with our annual end of the year OTO predictions. But now, 324 just happened. I'm with my co-host Bannon Crowley. He can introduce himself now.
That's my name. Don't wear it out. You can call me anything, but don't call me late for dinner.
We've been working on that one a lot. But anyway, we just had UFC 324. A lot of motion going on in the UFC. It felt like we didn't have fights for like 3 months, so it was certainly refreshing to get some good fights going. But we will start at the top. The interim lightweight belt was won by Justin the Highlight Gaethje. He beat Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. It was a very good fight. I heard a lot of people saying it could be a fight of the year contender, but we do have 11 months left, so I wouldn't say that yet. But what are your initial thoughts on the fight itself?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, I think it is a contender for fight of the year, because, it's been probably the best fight of the year so far. Um,
True.
so, uh, you know, we can look forward, but I think this is definitely on the list. Overall, I mean, I think going into this, for many people, Patty has kind of dealt with that back and forth with the fans, starting off a really hot prospect, everyone loved him, and then the Jared Gordon decision, and then people started to maybe dislike him a little more. Then, he became more likable after that as well, and then people were really on board with him. He got to this point where he's getting a championship, and now people don't like him again. That's what happens. Everyone loves you on the way up, and then once you get there, people start to kind of change up on you. We see that in sports all the time. I mean, there's plenty of guys you can talk about with that, like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, all the guys that, everyone really likes when they're the young, hot prospect. But then once they start winning and getting to that point, people start to change up. So I think either way, though, whoever won this fight, I think we had a good champion, or at least interim champion for now. I think both of them would get destroyed by Ilia. We can talk about that a little bit after. But yeah, great performance from Gaethje. Very questionable performance from Patty, not in the sense that he didn't do anything like wrong, I guess. I think he went out there. I thought the fight was going to be over in the first 2 minutes, like I'm sure a lot of people did. Patty, like he always says, Scousers don't get knocked out, but I just don't understand the game plan. The coaches were screaming at him in the third round and on to go for a takedown. Just absolutely didn't get any ground game. Um, I think most people predicted if they predicted Patty to win. I was looking at the overall stats before this. I think it was like 60% of people that predicted Patty to win had him by submission. No submission attempts whatsoever. Justin Gaethje, I'm pretty sure, had more control time with that overhead lock that he had on him on the ground, which he seemed like he got in most of the rounds. But just a good performance from both guys, just a questionable game plan from Patty. I don't even think it was his coach's fault. Patty himself just wanted to stand and bang the whole time, and he just got outbanged.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, Patty got outstruck in almost every single round, and he didn't land a single takedown in the fight. But that fight was, I think, it was exactly of Patty's like skill set, where he does have great grappling that we didn't get to see, but that striking is the same striking he's showing off. He has very heavy hands, and he likes to strike with people, but he just doesn't. I think the Scouser not getting knocked out kind of slogan he's using maybe got to his head where he does have a granite chin. He totally does, but I think he relies on that. He was like a foot away in the pocket with Gaethje with his hands at his hips, and he was getting rocked again and again. And yeah, he was not getting knocked out, but he was getting hurt and he wasn't firing anything back. So. Don't get me wrong. I thought Patty was gonna win that fight. I thought it was gonna be reminiscent of the Chandler fight where he was gonna get the fight to the ground and get in a good position on top and land some TKO damage, maybe some elbows. But yeah, I was disappointed with Patty's game plan. I wasn't sure like zero takedowns in the fight against Justin Gaethje. It's like kind of interesting, and that seemed like Patty's like best way to win is get the fight down. I think everybody knew that, including Gaethje, and Gaethje looked surprised in there that Patty was just like striking with him, getting knocked down, getting up, getting knocked down again. But I don't think Patty loses much stock here at all. I know he lost the fight. That was the best chance you're ever gonna get as a belt. Is to beat King Green, Tony Ferguson. like Michael Chandler. Like that's kind of a crazy run to go for the belt, especially at lightweight. But Gaethje was that was the fight to win. It didn't happen. So when you look ahead at the division, it seems pretty clear that Ilia will be fighting in the next few months. Who knows what's going on with his, I guess, legal matters, but it seems like Ilia will be fighting for that belt back. So, do you think that we're going to see Gaethje Ilia maybe at the White House? Are we going to see something else happen in between then? Armin could step up potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious here that the fight to make with Ilia and Gaethje is on the White House card. Talks about that kind of right after. Makes the most sense. Dana said he was going to try to take these two pay-per-views that we see right here. I think that's kind of why they put them back to back here to start the year. So then now, after these two, you can figure out what to do. You kind of have a break. You have a month off. Month and a half until the next pay-per-view numbered event, whatever you want to call it, in March. But now you can start kind of progressing forward to the White House card, assuming most of these guys are going to take a few months off, with Ramadan coming up as well. Right when they get to that June area, they can make those fights that we need to see. I think Ilia versus Gaethje makes sense. You want a US guy fighting for the belt. We can talk about another guy who may get an opportunity, but this one is solid. This one's 100% locked in between Gaethje and Ilia. It's going to happen unless Ilia moves up to fight Islam, but I think he's going to want to fight Gaethje at this point. I think either way, whoever won between Ilia and Paddy, I think he wanted to fight the winner of that before he does move up. And I think the White House makes the most sense. And like you said, on the opposite end, I think this actually raises the stock for Paddy Pimblett overall because I don't really think I think we both can agree. Even with him being the team captain of Team OTO, not really sure he deserved that championship fight. Like you said, I mean Bobby Green, you called him King Green. He went out there, beat him. I don't know if that Tony Ferguson and Michael Chandler really deserves a championship fight, but he went out there and I think he proved to the people that maybe said he shouldn't even be in the top 10 that he definitely should be. And I think he deserves that top five ranking. I don't think he'll move down after this. I'd be very surprised, actually, if he moves down after this. Will he move down after UFC 325? After we see Dan Hooker versus BSD? I wouldn't be surprised. I think what's next for Paddy Pimblett, depending on the winner of that. Like we said before, I mean, a few episodes ago, we said Paddy should be fighting BSD next. That would be a fantastic fight. I think if BSD beats Hooker, I think that's a fantastic fight. I think if Hooker wins, I think that's still a fantastic fight either way. I think Paddy should fight the winner of that fight, in my opinion, especially if Dan Hooker and Paddy have that ongoing rivalry that they kind of built it up the past few weeks that we've been seeing on Twitter. I don't even remember the things that Patty was saying, but I have a general idea of what he was saying about Dan Hooker. But we don't need to repeat those on here as well. But I think that would be a great fight either way. But what do you think? Do you have a different guy in mind, or maybe the winner or loser of that, I guess?
Yeah, no, I have the exact same thoughts across the board. I love nothing more. I know UFC merged with the WWE, but I love nothing more than a good storyline. And I love when people sell fights. As much as people want to hate on Paddy Pimblett for, I think he was ranked like 10 or 11, and I don't think he really beat anyone. And then he's kind of slid up to top five. Like, he sells fights. People like him. He's exciting. He says stuff about people, about Dan Hooker, some stuff like that. But I love the entertainment aspect of the UFC. And if you can sell a fight with two guys that legit hate each other, there's nothing more exciting. It gets more impressions online. It gets even me. I watch those fights with real beef there, and you're like, man, I really want to see this. Like I was watching Manel Kopp versus Muhammad Mokaev because I'm like, these guys are gonna kill each other. It was a terrible fight, but you always got to book the exciting fights. And I completely agree. You have Hooker versus BSD fighting on the very next card this week. So I would love to see, honestly, if Hooker won or lost, I would not, I would still maybe give him the Paddy fight just because the storylines they already, BSD, maybe Gamrot, you have other guys to give him. But yeah, I think Paddy versus Hooker is the fight you have to pick. And Patty should not have any complaints about fighting down if that's going to be a worry. He might not get ranked down, but Patty slid up the rankings. Michael Chandler at number 12 is the best guy he's beaten. So I don't think Patty should have any complaints about that. But looking at Justin Gaethje's side, very impressive for Gaethje. He's been that interim champ multiple times and the BMF belt. Like this is really his chance to solidify himself right before retirement as a legit champion. But man, Ilia's tough. Don't forget that Gaethje got rocked by Max Holloway at 300. He got put out cold. So who knows what Ilia will do. But that's got to be the fight to make. If you're going to sell the White House card, I like that you mentioned that Gaethje's an American. I think that would have huge implications for Dana. He's probably on the phone with Trump, and Trump's probably telling him like, get an American on this card, fight for the belt. And I'm sure Gaethje would love to do that, but man, I'm not sure about that fight. Justin Gaethje, I know he beat Patty, but I was not impressed with Gaethje at all. He looked a lot better against Fazayev. I thought he just didn't look great striking. He didn't look like super or especially powerful or fast on the feet. So, if it's up to me, those are the fights you make, and I think Ilia is going to make quick work of Gaethje.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the stats overall, Patty landed more significant strikes. It was pretty close overall. He threw more, but I mean, like they were saying, the commentary is usually not too good, but they had some good things to say throughout this fight, especially. And within that fourth and the fifth round, you see Patty just getting. They only gave two knockdowns, but I think the amount of times that Patty was on the ground, I was probably close to
Yeah,
10.
he had like phantom knockouts. Like Gaethje wouldn't
Yeah.
even hit him, and Patty would just kind of fall over.
But I mean, like they said, you look at both guys, Patty's bleeding everywhere, both of his eyes completely almost shut, black and blue, and Gaethje just didn't even have a cut on him. It seemed like for pretty much most of the fight, like he wasn't really bleeding anywhere. His face didn't even look that bad, but he had 150 significant strikes to his like head for the most part, besides those leg kicks, which Patty was doing very well. I mean, 50% of his strikes landed to the head out of the 326 that he threw. That's a lot of shots to the head without pretty much any cuts. And I think it was pretty obvious that Gaethje won this. I had it 4-1. I don't think anyone debated it, but I think it's just between 4-1. I think one judge gave it 3-2. But yeah, I think Gaethje, completely different fight against Ilia. I think Ilia goes out there and probably beats him within 2 rounds, if we're being honest. But before we move on, I do want to talk about kind of the rest of this division as well, because right after this fight, we did see a 30-second still shot of Arman Tsarukyan looking like he wanted to cry after this fight. And I mean, man, when we're talking about some of the best fighters in the UFC, I know a lot of people have mixed opinions on Arman. I do think that pound for pound, he is one of the best fighters in the UFC. I think he's just fantastic overall. I think you could argue, I mean, I'd have to really look into it. Besides Pantoja, obviously, who lost his belt that way, but I would say Arman is one of the best fighters that isn't a champion, and he's just stuck in an kind of unforgiving situation, kind of like what Marab was in before he was the champion, just kind of waiting there at number one. But Ilya versus Gaethje is going to happen. Charles versus Max, like we know that's going to happen. And then you have Dan Hooker versus BSD. We're kind of already pitting the winner of that against Patty. And then you have Fiziev versus Rufi. If Rufi wins that, he's in the top 10 as well. Who does Arman fight? Like, realistically, out of these guys, I mean, the only one that you could really look at that I would say he could fight is Patty if you don't give him the winner of Hooker versus BSD. But, like, I don't know. What are you going to give Arman Tsarukyan at that point? Is he going to wait until the winner of Ilia and Gaethje? That's probably not going to be until like November or December. I'm sure Ilia would want to fight in November on that New York card at MSG, but maybe he moves up to fight for the welterweight championship. I don't know. It just seems like Armin's in this spot where I don't even know who he's going to fight next. Like, are you going to go out there and give him a guy like Fiziev, like at 9? I don't know. It's just a very interesting spot for him right now, and for a guy that deserves a title shot. And that's why I think it's the most interesting part of this is making that Gaethje versus Pimblett fight.
Yeah, Arman Sarukian is incredibly talented. I feel the same way. He's one of the best wrestlers in the UFC, and I have been itching to see him go against these top guys. I mean, the Oliveira fight at 300 was so close, a great fight, and that was only 2 fights ago for Arman. He's only fought once since then, which was the Dan Hooker fight. But when you look at the Islam weight cut miss, too busy with Nina drama. When you look at the Hooker weigh-in, where Hooker confirmed that he broke his nose before their fight, I think Dana just legit does not like this guy, and he doesn't care. He's saying, "Hey, I'm not giving you. I'm giving Patty and Gaethje the shot. Like I'm giving, and now it's going to Ilia." I could totally see, in a very sad way, Armin waiting another few months with just nothing in the meanwhile. But I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But if I'm Armin, I'm like anybody. I'm Gamrot, Fazayev, Moicano, like literally anybody. He should fight down. Like he just needs to stay active, get on Dana's good side. That's increasingly important, it seems like, as Dana gets older. But Armin is so good, and it's a shame that we're not seeing him at the top level. But I'd like to see Armin back as fast as we possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, last year he competed 7 times in MMA, once in the UFC. Like this guy is going out and doing everything. He was in wrestling, he was in a modified rules grappling match, he was in a few like normal grappling matches. He's been going out there, he's been going pretty much everywhere. Out of those 7 times that he competed, he was in 6 different organizations. He's in the whatever they call it, the real American freestyle wrestling. He's going out there, he's going up against pretty much anyone. Like this is a guy that is so bored right now because the UFC won't give him an opportunity that he's going out there and competing against almost everyone. And before this, I mean, you can look throughout the rest of his career. The only time that he competed outside of the UFC was before he was in the UFC, and then last year going out there competing 6 or 7 times in different organizations. I mean, this guy just wants a fight, and it seems like the UFC is not going to give him one.
Yeah, but looking at a guy that the UFC does give fights to is Sean O'Malley. Against Song Yadong, he won on a decision. Some say a questionable decision. I thought he maybe did enough to win that fight 2-1 clear cut, but this is not the first time O'Malley's been given a very tight decision his way. And the same thing happened to Piotr Jan, and O'Malley definitely has that star power, but it is weird seeing him on the co-main 3-rounder, kind of getting less buzz than before. And personally, in the fight itself, I was not very impressed with O'Malley. He's such a great striker and a sniper. And when you look at the Aljo fight or that Cheeto fight, he was really building up a name for himself as one of the best strikers in the UFC, one of the most accurate strikers in the UFC. And I was not impressed. Song Yadong is a very good striker, and I think O'Malley knew that he had a ton of power on the inside. He was desperate to stay away from that. I don't think O'Malley really got hit clean like once in that whole fight, but he was way too cautious for my liking. He picked it up in the last 30 seconds of the fight, landed a great knee, had Yudong bleeding. I do think he won the fight, but I think O'Malley, like, I want to see him back at that star level, back with the popularity near the belt. And if he goes out there and he KOs Song Yadong, who's to say maybe he gets a good promo about Piotr Jan and he's back for that belt soon, maybe after Marab, maybe even before. But either way, I was not completely impressed. I think he won the fight 2-1. Did he deserve it? Maybe not, but I think you got to give it to him. His striking is so crisp and clean, but I want to see O'Malley get way more aggressive in the octagon. It seemed like Marab has hurt his confidence in the striking. He's too scared to get kind of hurt or embarrassed now, and I want to see an aggressive version of O'Malley that goes out there and hurts people like he did before.
Yeah, I mean, I would give him the fight. I did on my live scoring as well. That first round, he had 6 more significant strikes, and Song landed that takedown at the end of the first round. He had 38 seconds of control time. I mean, didn't really do much with it. So I don't know. People are saying that takedown should have changed it, but then, people on the same side are saying, oh, well, if you get a takedown and don't do anything with it, then it shouldn't matter. So I don't really understand that part. Second round, O'Malley didn't really look that good at all. Song went out there and kind of beat him down for most of that round. And at that point, I was really thinking, it was 1-1 in my opinion. And I think a lot of people had it 1-1 at that point. The judges did. I was thinking, I don't think Sean really has it anymore. And then that third round just comes out. lands more than double the amount of significant strikes that Song did. Stuffed both of those takedowns. Song went 0 for 2 in takedowns in that round. And just looked very good. Looked like the old fighter that he was before. Yes, I think he was a little bit more cautious. But I do think maybe that's not because of Marab, but maybe more because he was used to that 5 rounds. That we've said before, fighting in championship fights. This is the first time in years that he hasn't been in a championship fight. And when you go 5 rounds, you can't be throwing all the time. And I think maybe that's what he forgot. I'm not in a 5 round fight. And by that third round, he's like, okay, I only have 1 round left, not 3 more. I actually have to turn it up now. And he did. He went out there. I think he deserved the win 100%. It was close, but I do 100% think he deserved the win overall. And I think it'll be interesting to see who they give the next title fight to. It depends on how long Marab's out. With that Umar performance, it is going to be interesting in the rankings. Does Sean move above Umar after that? I don't know. I mean, Figgy, uh, I don't know. We can talk about it a little bit right now, I guess, since it was on the prelims, but. He didn't do anything at all. Like that was like a prime Paul George, you light my fire performance. That was just not, he didn't even look like the champion that he was
Mhm.
before. But, that's why I think Umar was like a -800, -1,000 favorite in that. I don't think Umar even looked that great, in my opinion.
Right.
5 minutes of control time overall. He just kind of laid on him for most of it. Figgy did have a point where he was landing a few strikes and, DC was getting hyped like, oh, yeah, this is the old Figgy. And then Umar just sat on him for 2 minutes for the rest of the round. But I do think it will be interesting to see if the UFC puts Sean above Umar. If they move him to 2 and Umar down to 3 in these rankings, then I think Sean does get the next title fight at the White House because, now you can argue that you have another American fighter fighting for the belt next. And, you know, he already has beat Jan before. I think that's the biggest selling point in this. Whether he actually beat him or not, on the scorecards it said that he did, but I think that builds up. Like we were just saying before, you want to build the storylines. There's no better storyline to make than Sean O'Malley, who got the robbery over Jan. And you're going to have a Russian champion fighting against the American underdog on the White House. Like, I think you pitch that to Dana White just like that, and he makes that fight for the White House.
Yeah, I completely agree. And there's so many guys that could be fighting on the White House card that haven't fought in a long time, and who knows what they're actually doing. It seems like they're missing. Hey, if Michael Chandler's not going to fight on the White House card, then I'm not watching. But it seems like they're missing their main like promo piece, what they're going to build a fight. There's got to be some Paramount execs hey, who's headlining this? Like we want to know, like we want to build up this massive card that we paid $8 billion for, but I could totally see that. In my eyes, Umar should stay above Sean. Neither of them looked good, but they both won against lower competition, so I'm fine just the way it is. But I would like to see Sean fight Jan again. Does he deserve that right now? I don't think so. Realistically, I think it's got to be Merab next. I think Sean versus Sandhagen would be a fantastic matchup. Two very good strikers, similar build at bantamweight, but when you look at the division as a whole, like Sean, it's Marab was so active, and now you have to Jan. You can't expect the same from Jan. He's not going to go out there and defend the belt every month. So I think you got to give Marab another chance back. And then we can see, Umar, Sean, make their way up for the belt. Yeah, I was not impressed with Figgy at all. He's a guy when he moved up to bantamweight when he was against Garbrandt. I was like, wow, this guy could make real numbers. I thought he was gonna make a title run, I will say, but it seemed like time caught up to him before. He looked terrible, just kind of phoning it in a little bit, and I'm sure that's the end of like a top five type Figgy. We'll see, but I'm still very impressed with Umar. I think he's a very talented fighter. So there was, I don't know, I guess not too many implications for the White House fight or for the future at 135, outside of those two guys winning the fights that they expected to.
Yeah, I think either way, if Sean doesn't fight Jan at the White House for that, I would just keep the same storyline. I know you said Sandhagen. I feel like Sean just has to fight Umar at this point.
Mhm.
I mean, if Marab's gonna fight Jan, have the two have the number two and number three guys fight and just keep that same Russian versus American. I'm sure Umar would be the favorite in that matchup by the odds makers, but I don't know. I mean, I haven't really been. I've been saying this for as long as we've been doing the podcast. Like Umar, I think is a good fighter, but I just really haven't seen the point where I'm really impressed with him. Like he's at this point that he's been really hyped up as a prospect. He's got some good wins, but fighting against Marab, yeah, he did really good in those first two rounds. Then he got dominated the next three. Like he went out there, he went to decision with Mario Bautista. A lot of people weren't happy with that performance. A lot of people weren't too excited with his performance against Figgy. He had a good performance against Sandhagen, but this is a guy that, hasn't got a knockout. He's supposed to be this great striker in the division. He's a Russian who isn't a wrestler, he's a striker. And his last knockout was 3 years ago, against Barcelos. So I don't know. I just haven't been as impressed by him, as I would say with a lot of the other top guys in each division. But I think if you don't have Sean versus Jan, I think you give him versus Umar at the White House card because I don't think there's any possible way that you can't have Sean O'Malley fighting at the White House card.
Yeah, he's such a big name. And either way, it'd be a great fight. I would like to see him fight Umar. Umar, yeah, he's a very good wrestler, very good kickboxer, but I don't know. I mean, we saw how it went against Marab, so I'd love to see how Sean O'Malley would do against Umar. I'm sure Sean would want to fight that after he got two chances to lose to Marab, but Sean is still the reigning champion of the three rounders at bantamweight, so good for Sean. But another guy that definitely will want to fight on the White House card, friends with Donald Trump, is Derek Lewis. He got the phone call from Trump in the past, but Derek Lewis, man, not a great performance in the slightest. That was one of those Derek Lewis things where I thought going into the card, I definitely didn't think he was going to win. I think Cortez Acosta is just a much cleaner, more disciplined striker on the feet. Lewis kind of goes out there and brawls, and if he doesn't get a knockout, he's like, "Man, I'm tired. I just want to get out of here." But Lewis is that guy where he goes out there, and if he's fighting up against like Volkov, someone really good, you're like, "Man, I want Lewis to win. He's likable. I just don't think he is." And he goes out there and he gets a KO, like against Teixeira, first round KO. And then he fights these other guys that aren't as good as those top guys that he's fought in the past. And you're like, man, I'm gonna bet on Lewis. He did so good last fight. And then he lays on his back and gives up because he's tired. So that was a pretty predictable outcome, at least in my eyes. But I was not impressed from Derek Lewis in the slightest. And another loss where he just kind of gave up.
Yeah, I mean, he looked like Drewski in this fight. Just absolutely not really the guy that you would expect, but he looked more like the, however old he is now, 40, 41, 42-year-old guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be very surprised if he continues to be fighting after this. But I think the perfect fight for him, if he wants to fight on the White House card, you know, there's another guy in the heavyweight division that I think is at a pretty similar spot as him right now in Tai Tuivasa.
I know exactly where that was going.
So I think the loser of that fight has to retire. Maybe even the winner has to retire. It could be a double retirement, a double knockdown. They both go in, they both punch each other, and they're down for the 10 count. It's over. And then the White House blows up with fireworks. But on the opposite end, a guy with 5 wins, 6 fights in the past not even 12 months, 10 months, going back to March of last year. I mean, Waldo Cortez Acosta, that only loss against Pavlovich, which went 3 rounds to decision. So, I mean, he is one of the best guys in this division, which is not really that hard to do, but he's one of the only guys that you can actually look at and say, wow, he actually can fight compared to most of these guys, most of the blobs in the rest of this division. But I mean, I know that there's a lot kind of going around with the top guys with Aspinall and Gone. Is Pereira moving up to fight for the belt? I mean, I think Waldo Cortez Acosta is the most deserving of a championship fight in this heavyweight division right now, in my opinion. And whatever the fight is, who knows if Tom Aspinall is ever going to fight again. At this rate, it seems like every week there's a different thing coming out about him. He was mad that Dana White gave him like a subtle shot at the press conference. I don't know. I saw a clip of his vlog where he was upset about that. So I don't know, man. I mean, if he's not gonna fight, he should just give up the belt at this point. Holding up the heavyweight division, not even fighting, just a little bit sad. But who knows? I think
Reminds me of
Waldo,
someone.
huh?
Reminds me of someone that held up the heavyweight division with no fights. But
Hey,
continue.
well, at least he was injured though. So
With what?
when he tore his pectoral muscle or whatever
Ah,
it was.
okay. Okay, yeah, no, I mean, it's honestly heartbreaking to me. I'm such a big Tom Aspinall fan. He goes out there and flatlines people and won almost every single fight. And he's, I know you don't like him, but he's so talented, and I just want to see more of him. He hasn't had that chance to prove how good he is. No pause there, I meant it. And it's a shame that John Jones waited that long and held up the belt. And Gane is such a dirty striker that who knows? I could see a world right now where Aspinall just retires. Maybe he boxes after like a 2 year layoff, but his eyes are definitely very bad, and it's gonna be a while. So I know Aspinall is not the like legit champ to a lot of people right now, but maybe the best move is he gives up the belt, you have an interim belt type thing or something along those lines because you need fights to happen. And I think if you're gonna do Aspinall Gane, which should be the rematch, Aspinall deserved it. Gane not so much after Volkov beat him. But if you're gonna do that rematch, like when is that gonna be? Is Aspinall? I've been hearing terrible stuff about his return time, so. I think maybe the best move right now is maybe you do Gon versus like Cortez Acosta, something like that. You keep the belt moving. I hate when belts just sit there and no one's fighting and inactivity. It kills the entire division because we're seeing it right now. Cortez Acosta fights like every other month, and it's like, does he deserve a title shot? But maybe. But where's that belt gonna be? Is it gonna be even open to grab? So it is a shame on that end, but on Derek Lewis's end, we could get a rematch where Trump calls him up. He's like, hey, knock this Aussie out. He goes at Tai Tuivasa's pants fall off when he's striking. Ty's doing a shoey after that. Could be fireworks. Who knows how that goes? But yeah, it will be. I mean, that was such a Derek Lewis performance. I know he's 40, but I completely agree. Give him Tai Tuivasa at the White House. I think in front of Trump, he wouldn't want to embarrass himself. That's his guy. We could see a banger fight. That's also if Tai Tuivasa doesn't get flatlined this weekend and retires or gets cut too.
No, no, no. He's not getting cut because what's going to happen, like you said, Derek Lewis versus Ty. Either way, Derek Lewis takes his pants off after, win or loss probably. That'll be his retirement. It's taking his pants off instead of the gloves. Ty does the shoey, with Steve will do it in the crowd. Since I'm sure the Nelk boys and Steiny and all of them will be there. Not 6ix9ine though, since he got locked back up. But it just absolute scenes at the White House. Yeah. But like you said, I mean, the one thing I don't understand is how these interim belts work. Tom was the interim champion for a year. And then when Ilia said that, I'm going to be out a little while, next day, interim championship fight at lightweight. Now
Yeah.
Tom has been out for 2 or 3 months, doesn't have a return table for him. So even if he doesn't want to give up the belt, just make an interim championship fight, whether it's Gon and Pereira. If Pereira is not moving up to heavyweight, just have Gon versus Waldo, in my opinion. I mean, he's going to show up. And I think both of those guys are ready. Waldo is ready. I mean, he'll fight. He fought twice in November. He's ready to go almost any time. And they're going to need some fights coming up, especially in the next few months, because a lot of guys are going to be waiting for the White House. And I'm sure a lot of guys are going to be waiting for the White House and not actually fighting then. So it'll be interesting. But I do think that you need a championship fight in the heavyweight division. I don't care if it's an interim fight. I don't care if it's a BMF fight between Lewis and Tai Tuivasa, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I do think Pereira is going to move up. Who knows when that is going to be? If it's going to be maybe Dana's begging him, he needs you for the White House card, move up. Maybe it's against Gon, who knows? But there's got to be some type of movement. And I completely agree. Like John Jones holds up the belt. Aspinall is now holding up the belt. Like sometimes they get when Dana doesn't like someone, it seems like the belt's gone immediately. And it's just such a weird system. And I think if you're injured and you think you might not be able to ever fight again, according to Aspinall, you take the belt away. Like you give him a t title shot when he's ready, but I don't know how he can just hold up the belt. But anyway, I do want to get on to the next fight. We had a lot to talk about here. So you can do the stuff you were saying earlier on the best fight of the card, Silva versus Rose Namajunas.
Yeah, a lot of people were actually kind of upset with this decision I saw, which was kind of surprising in my opinion. 29-28 across the board by the judges, but I did see some backlash from a few people after this, but pretty close fight. Silva outlanded Rose in every single round, significant strikes. So I'm not really sure too much about that. Yeah, the second round, Rose, 2 minutes of control time. So I think that's pretty obvious there. But then the other two rounds, Silva with the takedown in the third round and the first round, very close in significant strikes, but Silva outlanded her. I think a pretty obvious decision, in my opinion, in a very competitive women's flyweight division right now. With the champion being Valentina Shevchenko. I don't think it mattered who won this fight because I think Shevchenko beats Silva pretty easily.
Yeah, outside of the big three of like Shevchenko, Kayla Harris, and Zhang Weili, I do think Natalia Silva.
Uh,
Yep.
the big four,
Who's the fourth?
the champion, Mackenzie Dern.
Oh. Oh, I'm just gonna keep talking because Mackenzie Dern is not in my big three. It's three-headed snake. It is not four. But I think Natalia Silva is like 1B to that. She is very, very talented on the younger side. So I think if we're gonna see, I assume Zhang Weili is coming back down to take that belt from the fraudulent champ Mackenzie Dern, but I think Natalia Silva deserves that next title shot. And then one last thing on Rose, where she beat Zhang Weili in the past. She had so much promise. She seems so complacent in there, like no urgency to win. I do not think she won that fight. She had good moments, then she kind of resets and just gives up everything she worked for. So, not impressed by Rose. I'm Silva's one of the only like women's flyweight that like shows like urgency to win fights, like whether that's on the feet or shooting takedowns. So, I was impressed by Silva.
Yeah, so John Silva went out here and beat Arnold Allen. And a lot of people going into this fight were kind of saying it seemed like there was a mix. A lot of the casual fans really like John Silva, dog barker, autism, all that stuff. They're getting excited. And then the more of the hardcore fan base is like, oh, Arnold Allen's really good. He just hasn't fought in that long. He's going to go out there and prove that Silva is not actually that good. But then in the end, Silva was emoting on him at the end of the fight. I've never seen that before. But I'm not really too surprised. It seemed like at one point, Silva was kind of just toying with him. He kept trying to go for like high fives throughout the fight, and then Allen was just getting pissed at him. At the end of the first round, Silva went over and said something to him, and then Allen pushed him away. So that was interesting. And then Silva was crying after the fight. The same thing that we saw before a few days ago when he was crying, seeing the belt in front of him, which was another thing that a lot of people thought was pretty funny on the internet, which I saw. But I mean, overall, when you look at the significant strikes, the total strikes, the control time, it was pretty close across pretty much all the numbers. I think Allen, won that first round. Silva came out, won that second round, more dominant in the third round, and did kind of go overall and win that fight. I had it 29-28. I know one of the judges had it 30-27. I'm not really too sure about that. I think Allen won that first round, in my opinion, pretty clearly. But yeah, I mean, overall, very I wouldn't say a moving fight for me from Silva, a guy that has very good KO power, but to Arnold's credit, pretty good chin. Hasn't been knocked out in the UFC throughout his career. So going into this, I had Silva by decision. I thought he was going to go out there and piece him up, but not be able to finish the fight. That's exactly what he did. So I think a good performance from him. This will probably move him into the top six again. And then, the same question as we've been asking before, is he good enough to win the belt? I don't know.
Yeah, I was not extremely moved by Gene Silva, but I definitely thought he won that fight 29-28. And I don't think it was particularly close, although just being a 1 point fight. But I'm a very big fan of Gene Silva, more in the ring than outside. He seems like that guy at the gym that like he's staring you down on sparring day and he's like banging on his chest and yelling. You're just like, I don't want to fight this guy. But it seems
Shout
like
out Bowman.
Hey, I didn't say it, but and it seems like one of those things where he has that same effect in the UFC where it's like Arnold Allen's like, okay, like I got to deal with this. This guy's surfing on my back in a UFC fight, like, but Silva is so talented. Before the Diego Lopez fight, I had him as like the number one blue chip prospect. He has so much power, athletic freak. He has the right mentality to be fighting, obviously. But I think it was more of a case of Diego Lopez is just really good when he made Silva's head into a golf ball and he just dominated him. So I think both men are very good. And Arnold Allen is, I mean, he's 11-3 in the UFC. His only losses are Vlaev and Holloway, which is like those are very, very good guys at featherweight and lightweight, I guess now. But I don't think he's active enough for his own good, where he's fighting like once every like 10 months or so. And I know he stacked all those wins in the past, and yeah, he lost to Holloway, which like that was his kind of chance to join like the elite, like the top of the division. So I think Allen needs to be fighting more because I think he beats most people in the division. But when you fight once a year and you're gonna fight someone pretty good when you're ranked near the top five, you might lose that. And so he's won in his last four. Certainly doesn't look good, but I think Gene Silva's just that good. I mean, Allen's never been finished before in his entire MMA career, but I did want to see Silva use some more striking. He looks so comfortable on the feet, which he has in every single fight he's been in. So I wanted him to really unleash on Allen, really hurt him, and just show that like this is a statement win and you are here to stay.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Silva will probably take Allen's spot at 6, but I mean, looking at these top 5 guys outside of Volk, as the champion, I don't think he beats Evlaev. I think Evlaev takes him down and dominates him for most of the fight. I mean, Diego Lopez already beat him. I think Yair might just be too big and too long for him. I don't think he beats Lerone Murphy. I know I'm probably higher on Murphy than a lot of people are, but I think Murphy beats him. Aljo, I think, is more interesting just because he's older, but I think if Aljo takes him down with that wrestling, like I just I don't think Silva is really a I don't want to say he's not a contender because I think he has enough power where, if he got into a spot fighting against one of those guys, like he had a good chance against Lopez. But Lopez obviously beat him. But I just wouldn't consider him as like a title favorite. I don't think he's one of the top 4 guys, 5 guys in this division right now. And I think him moving up to 6 and getting another marquee matchup again would be good for him. But I just don't see him beating any of those guys in the top 4. Aljo, I think, is a little more questionable just because of his age at 5. But I would say you could make a strong argument that he doesn't beat anyone in the top 5.
Yeah, at the moment, that certainly seems fair. It's tough. I just really did not love Lopez getting an immediate rematch like that. I don't think he deserved to be the next guy to fight Volk after Volk beat him. I mean, it was a very close fight. Both guys got dropped. Very good fight, and it's going to be a close fight again, that is for sure. But I'm more in favor if you reward the guys at the top. Like, I mean, if Live, I know people don't love him, but like he got screwed. Murphy got screwed. Like those guys are on crazy win streaks. They beat everybody. Like if Live beat Diego Lopez, if we're forgetting that. So it's tough when you have that rematch from Lopez again. It really does hold up. What we were saying earlier at heavyweight, it affects everybody, not just the one or two top guys. So the only thing I'd say on Gene Silva is that he has. I don't think he should rush it. He has time because Volk's on his way out. If he loses, he's. I know Volk says he wants to fight 3 more times, defend it. I think if Volk loses, he's done. But I think Silva should wait. He should take these fights, build up, maybe work on his grappling a bit more. He's such a strong and like condensed fighter, but he does have more to work on. If he fought a Vlaev or even Aljo right now, I don't know how that would go with the grappling. I think he could knock out Aljo pretty easy. I'd say that. But those top guys at the division, I'd take Silva over Yair. I would say that. But I don't think either way he should rush it. I think he could take even if he gets moved up to six right now. I think maybe you take Zalal, you take Steve Garcia, Brian Ortega. You can still fight down, build up time, wait out Volk. You'll see what goes on at the top. But one name I would like to say is Kevin Vallejos fought Gene Silva in the Contender Series. He took a close loss. I think Vallejos is like a mirror image of Gene Silva and maybe Ilia. A lot of people say they're like super like short, stocky, like super muscular and athletic strikers. So I think maybe not now, but in the future. I know Vallejos calls out Silva just about every week on Twitter, but I think if Vallejos wins, Silva wins, maybe we could see that as a massive super fight in the future.
Yeah, and like you said, interesting that Mavzar or Lerone didn't get that title fight. As much as I like Diego Lopez, it is interesting, but he is probably the most fan favorite out of those guys. So I guess the UFC deciding to go with him, despite I think the obvious fight between Lopez and Yair. Like we talked about before, building fights, those guys hate each other. That probably should have been the fight. I don't hate your idea, with Silva kind of fighting down a little bit if he does move up to six. I don't think that's a bad idea for him. That might help him a little bit more to build up that win streak. And if we do get Mavzar versus Lerone, which is heavily rumored to be in London in March, which I would be surprised if it doesn't happen.
I might be
Um,
there as the OTO credentialed correspondent reporter.
Yes, and we may also get some OTO credentials at the Bryan Battle PFL in March, so we'll see if that happens as well. But yeah, this division, has looked pretty good. One of the divisions that hasn't really been held up. Volk is a really good fighting champion, so as long as he's there at champion, I think he's going to fight a few times a year. Another good performance from Silva. I wouldn't say great, but good enough where he definitely is a top 10 guy in this division. It'll be interesting to see what happens after that. But now, moving on to our performances of the night. Starting off with the shock of the night, kind of great performance, over performance, as you will. And for the past few ones, we've had Piotr Jan. I had Ethan Ewing for the past two. And for this one, the first one of 2026, I had Nikita Krylov. I was actually pretty surprised him coming into this fight. He was the slight underdog, but I think he went out there, that late finish was kind of crazy to see. And for a guy at 33 years old who has fought, it seems like a million times to this point, coming back off of back-to-back losses, coming out here and getting that win. He was knocked out in the first round in his last two fights last year against Reyes and Guskov, and then comes out and gets a buzzer beater finish, which we saw a lot on the prelims in I think three or four fights in the last few seconds. But a good performance. I would say a shock of the night for me, just because I don't know. I didn't really have too high of expectations for him. I think he easily could have lost this fight and kind of been not cut from the UFC, but kind of pushed away a little bit from getting those ranked fights. But a good win for him to kind of get back.
Yeah, and it was a tough card in terms of great performances. Like O'Malley was okay, Gene Silva was okay, Pimblett, Gaethje, they were okay. There wasn't a lot of great performances, but one name that stuck out for me was Alex Perez. I am not a big Perez guy at all, but Charles Johnson is someone who I definitely took to win, and he's someone that knocked out Lone Air Kavanaugh, knocked out Joshua Van. He has some big wins, and this was a big fight for him to prove himself, and Perez looked very good on the feet, knocking him down, knocking him out, winning the fight. And Perez is a guy that 2020 he lost his chance at the belt against Figgy, and then he fought once after a 2 year break, once more after another 2 year layoff. So Perez is, and then when he fought Tetsuro Taira and he like snapped his ACL in his leg, Perez is a guy that like has been very unlucky, and his name is kind of just faded out. Like people just kind of forget about him. I certainly do in terms of like the title shot. So that was a massive win, his first win in a year. And I was incredibly impressed by knocking out Charles Johnson that early.
Yeah. A good win for him. Next up, our underperformance, the flop of the night. I went with Derek Lewis. He landed 8 punches. And this fight went to the second round. Like this wasn't like a 30 seconds. Like no, he landed 8 punches out of the 43 that he threw. On the opposite end, Waldo landed more punches than Derek Lewis even threw. He landed 44 out of 62. Derek Lewis 8 for 43. Like if you told me that Derek Lewis was gonna throw 8 punches or land 8 punches in this fight, I'm like, oh, he probably got knocked out in 2 minutes. No, that didn't come until 3 minutes into the second round. Like he was averaging what, four landed strikes around at that rate. Just an absolutely abysmal performance from him. And he should have just gone for a flying knee to start the fight off. And a lot of people had high expectations since he said he was on peptides for this fight, sponsored by the UFC. He did have to go back on that because apparently that he can't say that the UFC gave him peptides. That would be bad.
That was AI.
Um,
That was AI.
so yeah, definitely not a good performance from him. Probably, I would say one of the worst of his career.
Yeah, it was certainly a flop. But another one that it stood out to me as a guy who won, but Ateba Gautier is someone I've been obsessed with every single fight. There's nothing crazy there. I'm not backtracking. Every single fight, he's been impressing me, just in every single way. And this fight was very disappointing against someone who, I mean, people gave him no chance. Gautier was a -1,000 favorite, and he landed two early knockdowns. It seemed like every time he threw anything beside a 1-2, it knocked down Pelayev, and he got outstruck 34 to 59 in terms of total strikes over the fight. I know he got the win. He clearly won the fight, but incredibly disappointing in terms of his fight kind of IQ, where he could have easily gone out there and I feel like blitzed him and not like he knocked him down so easily, and then he seemed just so cautious and scared. And when you're someone like Gautier, who Joe Rogan is on the podcast saying, "Wow, you got to watch this guy. He's the next Ngannou. This guy's incredible." And you're a -1,000 favorite. They've been feeding him straight cans, if we're being honest. I love Gautier, another blue chip prospect, but he is getting can after can. And this is how like guys like O'Malley, you build a name. You knock these guys out. You like start dancing on them. You have fun in there, and the UFC promotes you. A clip goes viral, and now boom, you're already a quick star. We've seen it with guys like Gene Silva, Sean O'Malley. It takes one fight to boost your name, and it will make them a whole lot of money, but also it'll be you can get millions of fans, new eyes on the sport. So he won the fight, but I was incredibly disappointed with how just like lackadaisical and he was just kind of moving around. He looked so scared in there, so not impressed.
Yeah, I mean, Gautier definitely should have won this fight in the first round, kind of as expected. And that's kind of why for my prelim fighter of the night, I gave it to Pelayev. A surprising performance from him. He went out there. His only two losses, he's been in the UFC now for 3 or 4 fights. Two losses by decision to Gautier and Leroy Duncan, two pretty good fighters in this division. So a guy that definitely should have been a pushover but wasn't. He won a round on two of the three judges' scorecards, and I mean that makes sense when you look at the significant strikes. Overall, he landed 25 more significant strikes than Gautier in this fight. Landed more strikes overall as well. He did get knocked down twice. But Pelayev went out there with almost 60 significant strikes landed. Gautier had 34. So I think Gautier obviously won this fight with those knockdowns. But definitely a surprising prelim fighter for me in Pelayev went out there and had a good performance.
Yeah, and I completely agree there. And I went with Josh Hockett. He's a guy building up a name. He's kind of like a gimmick wrestler. Like he cuts crazy promos. He says crazy stuff. I love it. I mean, I think he's kind of corny, but he's making a name for himself. He's getting eyes on himself. I love that he's trying something. And he fought Denzel Freeman, which is one of these newer like contender series era heavyweights. Same with Hockett, where it seems like Dana picks heavyweights from random places even if they're just straight up not good. One of them gets knocked out, he signs the other one. And it seemed like every heavyweight that he signed is like that. And I would just like to read out some numbers here. Over their fight, that obviously ended with Josh Hockett knocking him out, he landed 71 strikes, one takedown, 37 significant strikes, compared to zero strikes. Zero strikes from Denzel Freeman, zero takedowns, zero submissions, zero anything from Freeman. He was completely blanked by Hockett, but which is ridiculous in its own right. Possibly cut worthy if Dana was watching, which he definitely was not. But I'm impressed by not only Hockett's performance, but also his ability to blank Freeman completely and also build a name for himself as a heavyweight.
Yeah, you always need a gimmick guy, so maybe this is it, like the Santino Morellas of the world. If that's ball knowledge for anyone
Very
watching to this
similar. Very
point.
similar.
So, we do have another pay-per-view this weekend, which is going to be honestly, I'm very excited for this pay-per-view. I think this could be better than the one we just watched. I don't think the one that we just watched was bad by any means. It definitely did lose out on that Kayla Harrison versus Nunes fight, losing like 3 or 4 fights throughout the week. One due to gambling, which Dana was not happy about at all. And I think this is going to be a fantastic card. There's just absolute badass fights from top to bottom. I mean, we're talking about a kid here in Quillen, just badass, man. At lightweight, a great prospect. Next up, the return of Tai Shuivasa. I mean, a guy on the OTO roster against a very dangerous fighter in Teixeira. Who's going to win this? Someone might get knocked out. Next up on the main card, we got Rufy, a guy that has been very hyped up, part of the Fighting Nerds camp. Very excited for him going up against a guy who is just an absolute badass in Fiziev, just one of the maulers. I mean, he's a marauder. When we talk about marauders, he's a marauder, man. And then in our co-main event in Australia, Dan Hooker going out there, going up against BSD. This should be an absolute badass fight as well. And then in the main event, the hometown hero, Alexander Volkanovski, defends his championship against Diego Lopez, a guy, a fan favorite in this division. Can Volkanovski keep the belt? I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, and people forget, man, we have a badass fight on the prelims. A Marauder, Torres Finney, an absolute beast. And we got Quillen Salkiad. His parents own a bakery. I mean, come on, this guy is elite. There is a lot of great fights. I mean, Tai Tuivasa, that's all you really have to say. But top to bottom, we've Oban Elliott too, another very promising guy that we've been looking at. OTO certainly has had our eyeballs on him, but there's a lot, all these like Sydney cards. There's been a ton, like mainly because of Vulcan the last few years, but when it's Salkid, Tuivasa, they always find good Australian guys. You have Dan Hooker from New Zealand, but I'm very excited for these fights.
Oh,
Yeah.
you forgot Junior Tafa's on here.
Oh, yeah.
Not on the main card.
Not on the main card, which is very disappointing. Usually him and his bro find a way on the main card. But I think Salkid is if we're being honest, he's set up for another KO. I think Anik better say the Baker. He definitely should or farm and say the Baker line, just like right when he hurts Malarkey. But Malarkey's like fodder, if we're being honest. Tai Tuivasa and Teixeira, I will say, Tai Tuivasa is like fat, terrible, washed. But he could win that fight. There's a chance he wins that fight. It's heavyweight, who knows? Fazayev Rufi, that's a banger. If I'm making my picks now, I'd probably give that Fazayev. I'm such a fan of him, and he only takes the hardest possible fights. But that's a good fight for Rufi to take. I think Hooker BSD, I mean, the God of War, that's going to be a very tough fight. I'm leaning BSD, but honestly, haven't made up my mind on that. And then I think Lopez is going to get it done this time. I think last time it was so close. I picked Volk to win last time. It was such a close fight, though, and I don't know. Volk's only getting older. I think Lopez is going to fix his mistakes and get the win this time by TKO.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. It depends on which BSD we get because we really don't know.
Yeah.
If it's the one that has been the one that we've seen the past few fights, the winning streak, the guy that has reinvented himself after that setback, I think he can definitely go out there and beat Dan Hooker. It just depends on which one shows up. Rufi and Fiziev, I think Fiziev might just be too tough of a matchup for Rufi. I think they might have pushed him a little bit too much with this one. Tai Tuivasa, a massive matchup for him. If he loses this, might be actually cut from the UFC. Saul Kid has just been fantastic. This should be a fantastic fight for him as well. Junior Tafa, think he probably gets knocked out in the first round. So
Fingers crossed.
unfortunately, his brother, I think Justin is still out. He was hospitalized after that last weight cut at heavyweight. I
Okay.
mean, that happened. That's not even a joke.
I think we might have a Markeith Morris situation where these guys are pretending that Toph is out and they're coming in. Junior and Justin are actually swapping in mid rounds. That's how
Uh,
they have such incredible cardio.
I think I think that might be hard. I think Justin is legitimately closer to 100 pounds heavier as a heavyweight and did actually get hospitalized after missing that last weight cut
Hey, that's a tough weight cut.
at the
You just
heavyweight
can't blame the
division.
guy.
Yeah, you
That's like the
can't blame
Bisping
him.
line before the knockout at the weight cut. They just have one job. You just can't blame the guys. That's a tough weight cut.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll have to see if Tai Tuivasa can make weight as well. But one thing that I did see, Tai Tuivasa did have abs somehow. At one point, about a month ago, he posted on his story that he had abs. It may have just been the 6 weeks of the no UFC. I might have been seeing things, but I'm pretty sure that Tai Tuivasa could come in this fight with abs after being out for a year and a half. And this could be him reinventing himself. I think if he wins this, give him a title shot.
I think it's probably the UFC sponsored peptides. They've been
Yeah.
working. Yeah, he's been looks maxing a lot. I just noticed a lot of growth from Ty, but yeah, honestly, I mean, I don't know how many times we bring it up, but please, like, if he's still number 12, by the way, this guy is still number 12. He just keeps getting fatter. I do not believe your ab story, by the way. I don't know where you saw that, but
It was
I mean,
real. It was real.
all right, yeah, sure, buddy. Bring that up next time. Let's see some video evidence. But I
I
mean, this
will
is still
after
a
he
great
wins.
card.
First round knockout, and then fights Derek Lewis for the interim championship on the White House.
Okay, deal. After the shoey, but yeah, there's a lot to look forward to with the Australian cards. But one last thing before we go, we had a lot of decision making with the OTO roster, and I'm just gonna give a brief run through of Paddy Pimblett. Obviously, lost his chance at the belt. He's a team captain. We would have loved to have a champ. Didn't happen, sadly, but Sean
He's
O'Malley
still
did get the
there.
win.
He,
Yeah.
he's
Oh,
still
yeah.
he's still an official captain under contract, legally
Yes.
binding.
Yeah, no. Oh yeah, he can't. We got him in a 360. It's over with. But we have Sean O'Malley, great win by him, and now Diego Lopez coming up against Volk. That's going to be a great fight. We have his Parentona Bakery, Quillen Salkeld. So
Hmm.
looking for big things from him, and I think we're gonna start incentivizing. We're
Oh,
gonna have
you
yeah.
forgot someone else that's on the roster that's fighting this weekend.
Oh
Tai
yeah.
Tuivasa.
Oh.
He is on. He's signed to the OTO roster. This
Yeah.
is
I don't.
a fight. Um, that if he loses, he's cut. We're saying it right now. Ty, I know you're
Okay.
listening. If you lose this fight, you're cut from Team OTO. So you better go out there and win. We also have a contender series OTO fight for the final spot in the light heavyweight division between Junior Tafa and Mr. Billy. If Billy goes out there and wins in the first round, he's getting signed. If he knocks out Junior Tafa in the first round, he will be the third light heavyweight on the team.
Which is extremely likely, all things considered. I hope both of those guys lose, fingers crossed. But yeah, we have a lot to look forward to. Ateba Gautier also on the roster had a great win. So either way, Quillen Salkil, Diego Lopez, Tai Tuivasa. We hope our boys represent at 325, and we will see you guys there. It is only this week. We're only a few days away already. It's crazy. This is the first time I can remember we've had back-to-back numbered events. I won't say pay-per-views, but. So you will see us like next week, hopefully. And hopefully we're gonna have a lot to talk about and a new signee, Junior Tafa, to the OTO team.
See you guys in the next one.
Peace.